In this video, I'm going to share how I find high quality Section 8 tenants as fast as possible. Our team has found and placed over 200 Section 8 tenants over the last few years. I personally have never had an eviction with a Section 8 tenant. I have had an eviction with the private pay tenant. And so I want to share how we find high quality Section 8 tenants that stay for a long time and don't destroy our properties. So this is what I look for. This is, in my opinion, what the perfect tenant is. The perfect tenant is going to be someone who stays for a long time. This is 5+ years, and this is average when it comes to Section 8. They will stay 5, 7, 10+ years if you have the right tenant. I want someone who's low maintenance, not someone who's going to be blowing up my phone or someone on my team every day and at any hour of the night. I want someone who's a good, polite communicator, and I want someone who's going to cover their rent portion on time if they have any rent portion. So the way Section 8 works is they give you a rent offer. Sometimes they cover 100% of that. Sometimes the tenant has a portion to pay. If the tenant has a portion, I want someone who's going to cover their rent portion on time. And you can't get this perfect every time. You're not going to have someone who checks every box, but we can get close to this if we have the right process and we know what we're looking for. So let's first go over some green flags. What do I look for when I am screening potential tenants? First thing is I want someone, like I said here, I want someone who is going to stay a long time. So how do we know someone's going to stay a long time at our property? Well, you look at previous behavior. So if someone at their last 2 addresses has stayed for a longer period of time, let's just say 3 or more years at the last 2 places, they have a much higher chance of staying at your property for a longer time. So this is the first thing we're going to look for. Second thing is I don't want any bankruptcies or collections in the last 3 years, nothing recent. They might have had something 5, 10+ years ago. I don't really care as much about those because it was a long time ago. And so I'm mainly looking in the last 3 years or so. As far as communication goes, I want someone who's responsive, polite, and reliable through the application process. So they're responding to messages in a timely manner. They're not taking days to just send a quick response. They're polite. They're not rude. They're not cursing. And they're not saying, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? They're providing what you ask for because it's part of the standard application process. And they're reliable. If they say, hey, I'm going to send you this document at 7 p.m. tonight, and they don't send it for the next 3 days, and you see that happening over and over, that is going to be a predictor of what they're going to be like when they move into your house. So I want somebody who's going to do what they say they're going to do. If they tell me they're going to send something on a certain day and time, they actually go and do it. So responsive, polite, and reliable communication is what I look for in the application process. I also want someone who treats the application process seriously. You're going to run into some people who, when you tell them about your process, they're going to be like, well, I'm not doing this step, or why do we have to do this? And they're going to keep pushing back and fighting you on those things. And if someone is fighting you before they even submit an application, what do you think they're going to be like if you're trying to get a rent portion from them, or if you're trying to get some information from them if they're in your house? So I want someone who's going to treat this process seriously. And last thing here is the reason for moving. I want it to be a bigger place. They want a bigger place. They want a better area. Or maybe their current home failed inspection. If they're Section 8 and they're living in a home, there are annual inspections that they need to pass. So if there's some kind of safety or health hazard and they're moving because of that, that is a green flag to me. So those are the green flags and the things that I look for to find a high quality tenant. What are the red flags? What do we want to look for to tell us that we don't want to move forward with a particular tenant? First thing is going to be any prior eviction. If they have an eviction, any prior eviction, I don't really care how long it is. If they have one on their record, then I instantly disqualify them. Long gaps in rental history. So if they have multiple years where they don't have any place on record that they've lived, that is a red flag for me. That's not a deal breaker like an eviction is, but I'm going to start to dig a little deeper into this. A pattern of short stays. So if at their last 2 addresses, they had a stay of a year, sometimes less, or even like a year and a half, and they're already moving, that is a red flag for me. And I pair this with another item on this list. Violent or drug-related criminal history in the last 10 years. Now, obviously, there's going to be different magnitudes of this. If it's like a weed charge or something small, then I'm not going to really look too much into it. But if it's like domestic violence and it's recent, like somebody beat up their wife or something, then yes, I'm going to instantly disqualify them. If they're evasive or rude and or unreliable during the application process. Again, this is just a predictor of how they're going to be once they move into your house. So if you're asking them questions and they're ignoring your questions, or they're being rude and they're talking back and they're swearing at you, why the hell are you asking me for this stuff during the application process, that is a huge red flag for me. My biggest headache tenants are the ones who have been rude and push back on everything during the application process, but I was just in a rush to get them into the house. If they're unreliable, so kind of like what I said, the flip side of this, if they tell you, hey, I'm going to send you something tonight at 7 p.m. and they don't send it and they keep repeating that, then that's the exact thing that's going to happen with their rent portion if they have any. If they treat the application process like they don't need to do it, like they treat it like it's an afterthought, this is another red flag. If they refuse to provide landlord references. And then last thing here is the reason for moving. If all they talk about is like, well, I don't like my landlord, he's pissing me off, and that's the reason I'm moving, and it has nothing to do with this, like wanting a bigger place, a better area, or their current home is unsafe to live in, then this is a red flag for me, because they're just pointing the finger and you're going to be their next landlord and they're going to point that finger at you instead. So these are the things in my experience, and there's actually a longer list of this, but these are the main ones that I look for. If you look for these things when you're screening, you can screen out 99% of the bad apples when you're going through this process. Now, when it comes to screening, this is our exact step-by-step process. So let me unblock this, and then we're going to walk through it step by step. Step 1, we list the property. This is in my previous video, so you can watch that. I talk about the 4 places that we list our property and we market it. So we list the property, we get an inbound message with interest, someone saying, hey, I want to see your property, I'm interested in moving in, or somebody applies. So on platforms like affordablehousing.com or Zillow, you can submit an application as a tenant and you can get a lot of the information that you're going to ask here. For these following questions, once we call them, you're only going to ask the questions that you don't already have the answer to. So if somebody submitted an application on Zillow, for example, and they already gave a verified information for a lot of these questions, then you don't have to ask it again. If it's them manually submitting the answers to you, then you still want to ask this to confirm it. So we're going to call them and we're going to go through these questions. So I'll call them directly and say, hey, this is Sean with ABC Property Management. I'm calling you because you expressed interest in our property at this address. Is this Jane Doe speaking? And they're going to say, yes, it is. And you're going to say, okay, great. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions? They're going to say, sure, go ahead. And then you go through this list. So the first one is, are you a Section 8 voucher holder? If they say yes, then you want to confirm how many bedrooms they have on their voucher. And so if you have a 3-bedroom home, for example, you want to make sure that they confirm that they have a 3-bedroom voucher. It has happened a few times where we didn't confirm this and they had a 2-bedroom voucher for a 3-bedroom home. And we don't find this out until we go through the application process with the housing authority, and then we get 2-bedroom rent instead of 3-bedroom because they only pay up to what the voucher says. So you want to confirm the bedroom count on their voucher. Second thing, we ask if they have any source of income, if they have a job, or if they have SSI, disability, etc. This is going to tell us it's not a deal breaker if they don't work. If they don't have any income, then Section 8 will typically pay 100% of the rent, which I actually prefer. So if they don't work, that's not a deal breaker at all with a Section 8 tenant. Then we'll ask them if they have any prior evictions. This is a deal breaker. If they have even a single eviction, then we can't move them into our house. At least for me, that's a deal breaker for me. We ask if they have any recent bankruptcies or collections, if they have any violent or drug-related criminal history. We ask where they currently live and how long have they lived there, and then also where they lived before that. So I want their last 2 addresses. So I want their current place that they live that they're moving from and the one right before that. And we want to know how long they stayed at each place. We also want to know what their reason is for moving, and you want to remember the green and red flag reasons. And then we also ask them to share 2 landlord references. So again, their current and their last landlord. Remember these red flags here. If they're pushing back, if they're rude throughout this, if they don't want to give you references for their landlord, then these are all things that you're going to want to pump the brakes on, and you're going to want to keep looking for a better tenant. So we call and ask these questions, and if they have any of the red flags, we just politely tell them it's not a fit, and we thank them for their time. If they are a fit, then we let them know our application process. So at this point, they're still on the phone, by the way. And so we tell them, hey, so we think that you'd be a great fit for this property. And here is how our application process works. So if you want to schedule a showing, first step, we're going to send you a video walkthrough of the property. We always take pictures and a video walkthrough of every property that we list. And typically, if you're doing it on affordablehousing.com or Zillow, you can't upload a video. So they haven't seen this video yet. So you're going to tell them, hey, I have a video walkthrough of the home. I'm going to send this over to you via text. And I want you to watch this video. If you like this video and you want to schedule a showing after you watch this video, and this saves us a lot of time from tire kickers and saving us money from people who don't like the property, because if they see the video, they're going to have a really good idea. So we just let them know if you watch the video and you like the property, you want to schedule a showing, this is the way our process works. We're going to have you complete an application, which does a background and credit check. It's a $42 fee. We use a platform called My Rental, and we make this fee refundable if you don't like the home, as long as all the information that you told us is accurate. And if you actually go to the showing, right? If you flake out and you no-show and you're like, hey, I want a refund, I don't want this house anymore, we're not going to refund that. So they have to show up to the time that they scheduled, and they also have to have all their information that they told us on the phone, all the questions, it has to be accurate. So if they told us they don't have an eviction and they do, or if they have a violent criminal charge on their record they didn't tell us about, then they don't qualify for the refund. So they have to make sure that everything they told us is accurate and they actually show up when they schedule their showing. So we do this because, and we explain this to the person as well, we do this to reduce no-shows. We've had a problem with people booking time to see it in person. We have to pay an agent to go and show it. And every time we pay our agent, it's about $40. And if you don't show up, then we've wasted $40. So we have you complete this application. It's refundable as long as the information you told us is accurate and you show up to meet our agent if you don't like the home for any reason. So this is just our process. You don't have to do this. If you want to refund it, I'm just going to let you know that if you don't make it refundable, a lot of people are just not going to do it. So we do this to actually increase the amount of people who show up and to shorten the amount of time it takes to find somebody good. So we let them know this process on the phone. Most times they're like, okay, that makes sense. Please send over the video. We'll send over the video. They say they like it. Then we proceed with these steps here. Once they complete the application, so we send them the link for the My Rental application. Once they complete it, if everything checks out, if everything they told us is accurate, we schedule a showing. We have an agent that goes and walks the property with these potential tenants, and he charges by the time. So he doesn't charge by the amount of people that come. So what we try to do is schedule multiple applicants at the same time to save on fees. So if we have 3 applicants, for example, we're going to try to schedule them on all at Tuesday at 12 p.m. so that we pay 1 fee to the showing agent. And once we find somebody we like, we've selected an applicant, we're going to start the application process with the housing authority. So what we have to do is we have to fill out what's called an RFTA packet. It's called the Request for Tenancy Approval. We fill it out, we have the tenant sign it, we have the owner sign it, and then we send it over to the housing authority for them to begin the processing. So what they're going to do from there, it's going to take about 7 to 10 days. They're going to send you, the owner, a rent offer. And once you accept the rent offer, that begins the inspection process and the move-in process. If it passes inspection, you get the green light for the tenant to move in for the following month. So this is our entire process. This is exactly what we do and exactly what we look for in tenants. And this is how we find high quality Section 8 tenants as fast as possible. Step-by-step screening processes here. I've personally never had to evict a Section 8 tenant so far, knock on wood, but we have found and placed as a team over 200 Section 8 tenants over the last few years. So follow this. This is exactly what I use, and I just shared my process so that you can go and do it yourself. But I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you in the next video.